Playoff games to regular season games. How does that equate? And is there an actual formula there?
It's a good question. And we have to address it often because it's an important one, and certainly in playoff time, we know things are all ramped up and every game's more important. Preseason, regular season, playoffs, however, there is no formula that we follow. We try to stay consistent and look at what we've done in the past, and that gives us our guidelines and goalposts for sure. However, I'm not bound by any formula that I have to apply. And if certain situations or circumstances of an incident, speak to going higher or lower for whatever reason it might be, we can do that and are empowered to do so. And if, the PA or the player feels like that was an error, then, they can appeal that or whatever the case might be. However, yes, you can generally expect that. I don't give out 1-game suspensions for an illegal check to the head. It starts at 2. In my eyes, it's a rule. This department was founded on, and a rule we take seriously. And so you won't see a 1-game suspension for illegal check to the head unless it's the playoffs. If there's no history, no injury, and it's considered to be a legitimate suspension. However, not excessive in any other aspect, you can expect to see what would be a 2-game suspension in the playoffs to probably be a 1-game suspension. And preseason is a different story. There's different things to take into consideration: number of games they have left, whether or not they might be playing. Lots of different things. However, playoff games are absolutely considered more important or have more weight to them. And when you get into incidences that are either more intentional or aggressive, or there's crazier circumstances around them, or the player has longer histories, or the injury is something to consider, especially in the playoffs. If there's a play that has intention to it, that we feel has intention to it, and there's an injury, well, you could say, you're playing that team. Unlike the regular season, you're playing that team for the next period of time. And if there's, an injury, we might take that more harshly when we meet out our discipline, because you're effectively, changing the nature of that series. So, a lot of factors to consider, and the weight of the games is more. However, there is no formula that we follow.
Okay, along the same line,
if there was a simple formula to follow, preseason, regular season, postseason, whatever it might be, you could get rid of a whole lot of arguing. However, you're always going to argue where that line is, what falls into what bucket. It's a very difficult thing.
Well, why can't there be then, George?
Well, I actually remember when I was playing and on the union side of things, way back when, we tried to come up with a chart of discipline where, you fell into a category 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it might be, and there was a quantum of discipline associated with each one of those. And it's all well and good, like I said. However, you get plays that are going to put you on the line between column 1 and column 2, wherever it is. You're always going to have subjectivity. You're always going to have opinion, and there's always
more debate.
There's always going to be debate and a difference of opinion. So there is no easy solution, and we continue to think about that. And if one comes along, it'll make all of our lives easier. However, I think the system is a great one, and we've got, like I said, a serious group of guys that take this job really seriously. And as I always say, we do the best we can.
Follow up to the regular season to playoff equation. How much does any supplemental discipline play into effect, or the penalty, if there's a call in game, i.e., if there's a major called in game, does that affect what you will potentially tag on in supplemental discipline?
So, no, the answer is no. We don't account for a missed call, quote unquote, missed call on the ice. And oftentimes if let's say a player in whatever season it is, regular, pre or post, if a player gets an illegal check to the head and match penalty is thrown out of the game in the first period, we don't say, well, you already missed most of that game, so we're just going to do it. We don't do it like that. When we go back and look at these plays, the hundreds of plays that we compare them to or whatever it is, we don't say, okay, well, this play happened in the second period. This one was the first period. That's why it was this number, that number. It's a clean start. You played that game. That doesn't get brought into the equation at all. And, a lot of times, if there's a major penalty called in the ice, then it can relieve some of the pressure, as far as, media perspective is concerned. There's plenty of plays where, we feel as though a major penalty is the right call on the ice, and it ends there. We have way more major penalties than we do suspensions. And that's the case for, a lot of plays. And like I said, sometimes it's convenient for us that a major is called. Sometimes there should have been a major called and there's not. And then everyone's looking to us to make up for the fact. And we might still consider the play just to be a major, and we'll take heat for that, but we don't adjust or make up for calls that are perceivably missed on the ice or something like that.
How would you describe your relationship then with the officiating group?
Great. I wasn't there before me, but I love that group of guys. I've got a great respect for them. Even when I played, I was one of the guys that yelled at refs. They have the most difficult job to make these determinations in real time. Is I can't even tell you. I get to take my time overnight with lots of video feeds. They have 20,000 screaming fans on top of them, and are looking at minimal angles and have to catch it live, or expected to catch it live most of the time. So they are an incredible group of guys. And by the way, our referees have to be athletes too. Like, compared to any other sport, like, they are moving up and down the ice, getting out of the way of pucks and sticks and body checks. They're not umpires behind the plate. No disrespect to baseball or any of the other sports. Our guys have to move and be limber out there. So their jobs are difficult. We have a great relationship. I go every year at the beginning of the year to their officials training camp and speak with them. And we go over plays where, like, a major penalty or no penalty was called, where I ended up suspending. And we talk about that, why I felt it was something, why they may have felt otherwise in game. Maybe they just missed it, whatever the case might be. But we have a very open relationship. I go down and see them after major events, the outdoor games and playoffs and things like that. And if something goes on the ice, if it's something I'm looking into and I want more color on something, an incident that occurred, I call them that night and say, hey, tell me about what you saw. What conversations did you have? What do I need to know? Am I missing anything? All that. And they're great with, giving me their opinion from the ice level.
I'd say that was my next question. The process of determining a suspension would include what you think that that their voice is important in making a decision?
Not often, but it can be. I mean, a lot of times we can make our own determinations on video, and I don't need to bother them. If there's something goes on, I don't have a good look at something. We see everything, but a lot of times there's like the angles that we have just get blocked out by a body passing by the camera, or there's a stanchion in the way of the contact, or there's a big pile and scrum, and I can't really tell everything that's going on. Well, those guys have 8 sets of eyes on those scrums, and if I need to kind of get a better idea of what may have happened, I'll reach out to them. They write an official's report for every major penalty. So I review that when I'm making a determination if I'm going to suspend or not. That's part of some of the things we look at. But for the most part, like I said, we can do what we need to do based on the video.